Hey, welcome everyone to day 2 of the workshop. I'm going to just share the collaborative document link. So we're going to use a different document to yesterday. So you might have noticed at the top of the document yesterday, there were links to each of the collaborative documents for each of the days. So we do have that already, but I'll just paste the link for today. And I'll paste it again if more people join. So yeah, maybe I can just make a few comments before we start. So yeah, welcome again. And thank you so much for your participation yesterday. It was really, really great. And I'm hoping we can have the same level of participation again. And thank you to those who gave feedback in the Google form. That's really helpful. And I would encourage you to do it again today. And for those who didn't do it yesterday, to do it today and just give us feedback, what you think went well, what you think maybe could be better next time. Super, super helpful and super useful for us. So there was quite a bit of material that we didn't cover yesterday. So there were things that we didn't get to, but as Dr. Kumalo mentioned a minute ago, we will share all the material at the end of the workshop. So if there's things you want to go back and look at, you can go through it again. And if you want to go further and look a bit deeper into the more advanced topics, you can also do that. So we will share all of those links at the end of the workshop. And there was one thing that we didn't get to that I did just want to quickly make you guys aware of if you don't know it already. So that's shell scripts. So everything that we did yesterday, you could technically write to a file, which is usually referred to as a script, and you can run that. So that's very useful if you want to, if you're going to do something multiple times, or you want to keep track of what you've done. So I can give you a specific example where I use it really very often. And that's if I'm running something on Amazon Web Services, I have a standard script that just helps me set up that remote cloud compute. So yeah, if you're using any high performance computing stuff, you're probably going to use some scripts just to, there's a lot of things that very repetitive tasks that you don't want to have to actually manually type the commands every time. So I just wanted to mention that because that's also something you might come across when you're looking at other people's work. You'll see a file with a .sh extension, and that will be a script that will run things in the terminal. Is there someone who wants to make a comment or ask a question? Is it Peter?
User can also interact with the piece or applicant the question.
Hello? Okay, I think, okay, maybe that's a mistake in unmute. Okay, no problem. But yeah, if you have a question, please, don't hesitate to just unmute and jump in. And the other reason why I mentioned scripts is just because ChatGPT is very good at writing these. So if there's things that you want to do and you feel like, oh, okay, I don't know the commands, or I don't quite remember exactly what the commands are, but I know roughly what I want to do, ask ChatGPT to write it for you. This is going to really save you a lot of time. And there's also another resource which I did add. Let me just check that I did add it. And the collaborative document from yesterday. Yeah, under important links, I also just put a link to a website that will explain shell commands to you, which can be also useful. And that's obviously it's not going to hallucinate an answer. So you're going to get a reliable answer. I mean, although for coding, I would say using things like ChatGPT is quite reliable. If you just want to be 100% sure, you can also use this website. Yes, okay, so if we can all just jump onto today's collaborative document, I'll just put the link in the chat again. No problem, Peter, no problem, it happens. Okay, so if we can just jump to the collaborative document and then do the sign in. And then if you can, to please add the link to your GitHub account that you hopefully created yesterday or this morning. And the reason why I'm asking you to add that link is that hopefully we'll have time to get to actually doing a little bit of practicing of collaborating on GitHub. So I'm going to add you as a collaborator to a repository that I own. So if you can put your GitHub link, that would be awesome. So I'll put mine so you can see what it looks like. So I'm just in the sign in section now of the collaborative document for today. Am I in the right one? Yes. Let me find my GitHub account. Yeah, did anyone get stuck on that or hasn't had a chance to create an account yet? And yeah, if you haven't made an account yet, don't worry. Maybe just during one of the coffee breaks, you can just quickly take 5 minutes to create one. Okay, awesome. So we've got one person. And yes, again, the sign in, if you just put your name, just to basically acknowledge that you were, so we know who was here today. Okay, so I'll just give you guys a minute to do the sign in. Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay, so I think we're probably, ready to start. So I just want to spend like a few minutes just talking about like what is version control and like why do we want to use it. So I've pasted an image in the collaborative document. Let me just share my screen actually, so we can all see what I'm looking at. Yeah, so I don't know how many people have had this experience, but I've definitely had this with my supervisor, where you think, okay, I'm done. I'm ready. I've got my thesis or my paper or my report or whatever. It's ready. And I've got a final version. And I take it to my supervisor. And now he says, okay, no, please change this. Please edit that. And now I've got a final version too. And then we go through the next range. And like I've had this with PDFs especially when you're trying to like collaborate with say more than one person, like you're working also with a fellow master student or fellow PhD student, and you've each got your own versions, and now you've got final version 6 that's supposed to be for this journal that you may be submitting your paper to, and you have a different version for another journal because they have different formatting styles, and it can really get completely out of hand. So hopefully everyone can relate to this story in some way or another, whether it's through just comments from people and trying to make new versions or losing versions or having multiple backups. So version control is kind of a way to manage this situation. So it allows you to keep track of changes that you've made and also easily revert back to them. And it also really facilitates collaborating with other people. And we'll see also when we get to the part on GitHub, there's a lot of, GitHub's the main one that people use, but when you use this type of version control, you can also make your work publicly available to a wider community. And it also makes it possible then for you to collaborate with, in some sense, complete strangers. So it just creates a sort of framework that allows everyone to share their work in an understandable way. And yeah, places like GitHub are also super useful to find work by other people that might help you in your own research. Yeah, and it's also a good way to share work with yourself, which sounds maybe like a strange statement, but if you have more than one device, it can also help you to make sure that your work is synchronized over your devices, and also in cases where you're using things like compute clusters or the high performance computing, like for high performance computing use cases. It's also a really nice way to share your work with yourself. Like I had a situation where I wanted to run something on the CHPC. So I just had a repository or like one of these version control things that we're going to look at today. And then I was able to just replicate my work on the cloud exactly as it was on my local machine. So that's it's super useful. So I hope that kind of motivates the many aspects of why it's a really good idea to use Git and just version control in general. So what are the type of changes that we like typically encounter? So the first image here is just a simple example where we've got some version of our document. We're going to add some text to it, and then we add a bit more text to it. So that's pretty straightforward to keep track of. But we might want to like jump between these versions, or maybe the second edition is really just a draft that we want to work on a bit further before we share it, say, with our supervisor. So you might want to jump back to this middle version and then share that. So that Git is going to allow you to do things like that. And then there's situations where you might have multiple people working on a document. So say somebody makes the orange change and somebody makes the blue change. And normally, if you're doing this, say, in a Word document, this would cause like divergent versions. And I would argue, even if you're using something, okay, this situation is maybe not so bad if you're using, you might say, oh, I can just use something like Google Docs, or maybe Overleaf if you're writing a LaTeX document. You can say, but okay, that's taken care of. And that is true, but you still won't have a nice record of what changes were made. And you won't be able to easily undo the changes. So Git's going to make it much easier. So in the Git situation with the version control, we're able to actually take those changes and merge them into the original document in a kind of trackable, traceable way, and if there is a conflict, if there is something, say, where these orange and blue texts overlap, then Git is going to alert us to that and allow us to review that and make a decision on what change we actually want to make. So yeah, that's a sort of overview of like what version control is, what Git. So Git is a software for version control. There is a long history of different version control softwares, but Git is, I think, definitely the most popular, at least at the moment. Yeah, so let me just check if there's anything else I want to add to this. Yeah, so it allows you to do sort of unlimited undos to changes that you've made, and it allows multiple people to work in parallel on the same project without fear of anyone overwriting or losing work from their collaborators. So yeah, that's two big advantages. Okay, so let's set it up. So you don't need a GitHub account to do this. We're just going to use the terminal that we used yesterday. So it's going to look, we're like shell experts, so it should be very easy to do everything that we're going to do today. So let me share my terminal. Just switch over here. Oh, okay, maybe while I'm doing this, if there's anyone has a question, they can maybe just jump in, or a comment even about their experience using GitHub. I would love to hear that. Okay, and let me also check the chat. Cool. And yeah, again, today it's going to be similar to yesterday. You're really going to get the most out of this if you code along and try all these commands yourself. So I really encourage you to do that and to code along with me. Okay, so my terminal should be visible. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to actually set up our like git. We're just going to configure our git basically. So git is the command that we're going to be using essentially the whole time. So you'll see here, I've just typed in git just to show all the options. But the first thing we're going to do is run some git config commands. So the first thing we need to do is configure our username. So this is not sort of vital for what we're going to do in the next, like say 2 hours, but it's going to be useful later when we want to connect to remote repositories. So GitHub, we need to connect to our, we need to provide Git with that information about our account. So if you don't have a GitHub account, just use, you can do the setup, and then I'll just also repeat it later. Like if, for example, you're not able to use the username. So the first thing you're going to type is git space and then config. And then we're going to use the option global, and we're going to say user.name, and then I'm going to start double quotes, and you're going to use your GitHub username. So if you don't have a GitHub username yet, just use your actual name, and we can edit this later. But my GitHub username is Amy, and then we are my surname. So you wouldn't type my name, obviously here, you would type your username. So just again, it's git config. So hopefully you can see this, but I'll also just, I know yesterday we just mentioned, maybe it's not so clear from the bottom, so I'll move it up in a second. So okay, so that's the format of the command that you're going to use. So I'm going to push enter to run that, and nothing happens, but we'll see in a moment the effect that had. And it will just clear, so we're at the top again. So that was git config option global, global user name, and then my username. Okay, and then we also want to configure our email address. So again, git config global, and then user.email. And then I will use, email space, and then again, quotation marks, and then I'm going to use my email, but you can use your, whatever email either that you have set up your GitHub account with, or that you intend to set up your GitHub account with. So we just set that. So you run that, okay? And it is possible, like if you don't feel comfortable with using your email, there is a way to keep your email private. You can, instead of using your email, you can use this. So you can say your username, whatever your username is. So for me, it would be Amy Ria at users.noreply.github.com. So you can do that if you want. I haven't done that because I know my email is freely, like publicly available. But if you don't feel comfortable, you can also use that. There's one more thing that we're going to set, which is handy, and I'm just going to paste that into the collaborative document, because depending on what operating system you're on, you're going to use a different command. So I'll just paste that in the, let me say, yeah, I'm in the exercises section. So line 91 of the document. So I will just go through the commands, but if you're on Mac or Linux, you're going to use a slightly different command to what I'm about to type now. So what this is doing, so I'll just type it first. So it's git config again, and then again global. Maybe I should also just mention what global is doing in this situation. So when we create our first repository, we can also make local settings within that repository. But the settings that we're setting now is kind of like throughout your computer. These are going to be the default settings that are used. So it's just handy to set this so that you don't have to, every time that you create a new repository, you don't need to recreate these settings. So we're going to set the core auto CRLF to true. Okay, and what this does is it just deals with line endings. So on different operating systems or even different machines, there's different conventions to do with line endings. So this just what if you don't set this, it won't break anything. It's just that you might get warnings saying, there's some issue with the line ending. So if we just run this, it hopefully will save us some warnings in the future. So there's a bunch of configuration settings that you can set, but these are the three like most useful for us now. Okay, great. And then let's just have a look at the configurations. So we can list our git configurations by typing the command git config and then list, so double dash list. And then I get a whole list here of all my configurations. So this might be slightly different for you because I've had my Git for a bit longer, so I'm not sure, I might have additional settings that you don't have. But what you'll notice here now at the bottom is we've got these three settings that we just set up. So our username, our email, and this auto, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, CTLF. Okay, great. So does anyone have any questions? Is anyone stuck?
I have only one question. I want to understand why you are using git bash to access GitHub.
Okay. So that's a good question, and I'm not sure that I'm going to have a good answer. So I'm not quite sure what the exact history of it is, but this specific git bash that I'm using here was developed for Windows. So if you to use Git, so you know, if you want to use Git on a Windows machine and you Google, okay, like a tutorial of how to do this, they'll recommend that you install git bash. So I'm not sure what this would look like, or if it may not even be possible because to run this through the Windows command line. So we could also alternatively have done all the shell things that we did yesterday in the Windows command line with different commands and run this. But I think the reason that the reason that people generally use git bash is so that it emulates a sort of Unix shell environment like you would see in Linux, and it also gives you access to these git commands, which would not be accessible through the Windows command line. I hope that answers your question, but I stand to be corrected because I'm not a technical expert. This is really like, I use this because it works, is the short answer. Is the short answer to that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yes.
There's Prudence is asking a question. Can she clear a code so that she can have a clean page?
How do you clear your code? Okay, yes. So I'll just type the command. The command is just clear with lowercase. So I'll do that now actually. So if I just type clear in my thing and I push enter, then I should clear the window. So then we can list our configs again. Okay, if that doesn't work, please let me know. Okay, great. So sorry, that was a little bit of boring admin before we start, but now we can actually get to the cool stuff. So we're just going to pretend that we're in this imaginary situation where we want to help Dracula and his buddies set up a repository so they can work together. So I've just pasted this cute image. So we've got Dracula and Wolfman and the Mummy, and they want to all work together on a project to explore the solar system. So they want to see, okay, are we going to go to Mars? Are we going to go to Venus? And they're going to store their work and their comments in a Git repo so that they can collaborate more easily. So let's create this repository for them. But first we need a folder to work from. So a repository kind of exists within one folder. So I'm going to work from the desktop. You can feel free to work somewhere else, but I think desktop is usually the most convenient place to work from. So I'm going to use the CD, the change directory command from yesterday, and I'm going to navigate to my desktop. Okay, let me quickly do an ls just to check where I am. Okay, great. I'm in the right place. Let me clear this. Okay, so I'm on the desktop and I'm going to create a folder called planets. So I'm going to use the make directory command and then the name of the folder that I want to create. So planets, and then enter to run that. And then let's do a quick ls. There it is, planets. Okay, great. So I've got my planets directory. And then I'm going to change directory into planets. So from my current directory, if you remember from yesterday, the dot is shorthand for the current directory. And I'm going to change to planets. Okay, and if I do ls again, I'm in an empty folder, as I would expect. And now we're going to initialize our Git repository using the git init command. So git and then init. And I'm going to run that. Great. So it's initialized an empty Git repository. And if I tap ls again, you'll see nothing prints. But if I use ls with the -a option to show all the hidden files and folders, you'll see I have a .git folder. And that folder is where Git is going to keep track of all the changes and all the edits that we've made. So that .git folder is what makes this a Git repository. If I delete that folder, it's no longer a repository. So it's no longer a Git repo. Okay. Great. So was everyone able to do that? If you're having a maybe I can just get 1 or 2 thumbs ups. Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, yeah, see Lynn. Okay, awesome. And I should mention today, we're definitely going to run into some errors. Like if you don't get at least stuck in one place today, then something is wrong. So please stop me if you get stuck. Git is kind of notorious for like help. I don't know what to do. Okay, so one of the most if not the most important Git command is the git status command. So that's going to tell us the status of our repository. So if I run that, it says on branch master, no commits yet and nothing to commit. So this is just giving us a kind of overview of what's going on. And we're not going to get into branches on this in this workshop, but you can imagine what that probably does. And basically it's like we're on the top level, but we can create different versions of our repository to work in it. This is especially useful if you want to make like major changes, but you want to make sure that you still have a version of your work that is like ready to go, or like definitely doesn't have any issues, so you can share it with other people. So that's a sort of advanced use case of the Git repository. but the sort of default is that we're on git master. So master is the default name for the top branch, like the main branch. You'll also see it called main, branch main. There was a decision made that using the word main was more like correct, or like more in line with that, let's say, like political issues, because people felt that master, it just brought up thoughts of like slavery and things like that. So the default now on GitHub is actually branch main. So we'll actually change our thing in a minute to main. Yes, we're going to do that now. So we're going to change git checkout. So checkout is the command that you would use to change the different branch, but we're not going to use it for that case, other than just this one time. So we're going to say git checkout option B for branch, and then the name of the branch, which is main. So we're going to say git checkout main, run that. And if I run git status again, you will see now we're on branch main. So the only thing that's changed here is I've just changed master to main. That's all. Okay, great. So git status, yeah, super important command. That's going to be like our ls for today. It's going to be the thing that we're just going to be running a bunch of times. Okay, let's do a quick exercise, and it's also going to let me say something that I haven't mentioned yet. So, second to paste it. Am I? Sorry, I didn't paste the title. Okay, so we've got exercise 1 here, and this is places to create the Git repository. Okay, so along with tracking information about planets, the project we have already created, Dracula would also like to track information about moons. Despite Wolfman's concerns, Dracula creates a moons project inside his planets project with the following sequence of commands. Okay, so change directory, so return to the desktop, go into the planets directory, which is already a Git repository. Okay, and then he ensures that the .git subdirectory is still present in the planets directory. So he sees that. And then he makes a subdirectory called moons. So inside planets, he creates a new folder called moons. And he changes a directory to that moons folder. And he initializes a new repository inside that subdirectory. And he checks, okay, yes, there is indeed a .git folder present. So the question is the git init command run inside the moon subdirectory which required for tracking files stored in the moon subdirectory? So I just want to give you a chance to think about that, whether what you think, what you would guess is the case, and then I'll explain. Okay, yeah, does anyone want to comment on what they think, whether they think that it would be necessary to init again in the subdirectory? Just a guess, because I haven't discussed it, so it would just be now your guess as whether you think that this would be necessary or not. Punky, do you have a guess? Okay, we have one person in the document saying yes. Okay, so the answer is actually no. So this is not necessary. I mean, you had a 50-50 chance of being right. So it's not, sorry, luck is not on your side today. Okay, so the answer is no. So once we've initialized the repository, it will track changes inside that folder, but also inside any subfolders to infinity. So subfolders in subfolders and subfolders. So we only need to do get init once, and we're able to track all the changes in the whole folder. Yeah, so that's very important. So we don't want to do this really more than once. You can think of it like per project, you would do one get init. So one project for your thesis, maybe one project for your code, for your analysis, and so on. So we only want to do this one. Okay, let's do another quick exercise. If I can find it in all my millions of windows here. Okay, so Wolfman explains to Dracula how a nested repository is redundant and may cause confusion down the road. Dracula would like to remove the nested repository. How can Dracula undo his last git init in the moons subdirectory? So any guesses? I did sort of mention this, but not explicitly. So anyone want to make a guess? And it would really be a command. So I'm going to actually just put a bash thing here. And then if you have a guess what command we need to get rid of our redundant repository inside the moons folder. Nice. I like the guess that's coming. Yeah, so indeed, we were going to actually just delete the .git folder. So we don't need the git command. We can actually just use the command from yesterday. So it would be remove, and then let's assume that well, actually, let's just do it explicitly. So let's assume his folder is on the desktop in planets. So we're just going to remove desktop planets, and then we'll remove the git folder that is inside the moons plural subdirectory. So this would get rid of the redundant repository, well, the redundant git folder inside the moon subdirectory. Anyone make a comment on this remove statement? If they remember from yesterday, what I maybe might want to also add to this command.
Yeah, so adding interactive, something related to yes and no, so make it safer.
Nice, perfect, thank you so much. So we can add this .-I, just in case I accidentally did this, and oops, now I've gone and deleted what I really didn't want to delete, which was all the tracking of the changes that actually happened in the top repository. So yeah, nice. Okay, awesome. So let's create some files. Okay, so let's jump into it. So we are let me just have a little look, see where we are. Okay, so we're in the planets folder. Let me clear my thing so it's at the top. And let's create a Mars file. So for the planet Mars, so we just write some information about Mars in there. So I'm going to use Nano because I want to actually immediately write some text in the file. So I'm going to use the Nano text editor and I'm going to type mars.txt to just put a default name to the file. And I'm going to type enter, and then I'm going to just put some text in here. So I'm going to type cold and dry, but everything is my favorite. Let's do the British spelling, favorite color. Okay, so we can assume maybe this is what Dracula is saying about Mars. I was a bit confused initially about the sentence. I thought, what do you mean everything is your favorite color? But I'm assuming on Mars everything is red, so Dracula's stoked about that. Okay. And then if we remember yesterday, these hat symbols like shorthand for control. So I'm going to hold control and then press O to write it. And then again, we get this prompt that's just going to ask me if I want to change the name of the file, but I'm just going to keep it as mars.txt. So I'm going to push enter and we can see it's written one line. Okay, and then I can exit using Control X. Okay, great. So I'm back to my terminal now. And we can also use a command that we didn't see yesterday, but as a way to just print out the contents of a file, we can use the cat command, which is an abbreviation for like concatenate. It's just going to concatenate all the text that's in this file. So I'm saying mars.txt. Okay, and there it is, cold and dry, but everything is my favorite color. So I've just printed out the contents of this Mars file that we just created. And I mean, we can also list it and we can see, okay, that's the only thing right now other than the Git folder in our folder. Okay. Now let's use our favorite command here, git status, and let's see how things have changed from before. So if we run git status, we're still on branch main. We haven't changed branches. We don't have any commits yet, but we see we have untracked files. So we have files that we can commit. That basically commit here is kind of shorthand for like, hey, keep track of these changes. So our untracked files are mars.txt. So how we start tracking that file, how we tell Git, okay, this is an important file, please keep track of it. We use the add command. So we say git add, and then the name of the file, mars.txt. So I've just used the tab there to autocomplete. And I'm going to say enter. Okay, and you see I've got, doing the global didn't actually fix this. So this warning has to do with the line endings, but we don't need to worry about this. So it's just a warning. So don't worry if you also see that. And if you don't see that, great, don't worry about this. Let me just clear. And then I'm going to do a git status again. Okay, so I'm just going to recap there. I'll just put in the chat in case anybody missed it. So where is the chat? Okay, so I use git add and then the file name. Okay. Okay, great. So now it's turned green. So it's now saying, okay, you have your file, you've added it, you're now ready to commit this change. So this is the next command that we're going to learn that's important. So this is the git commit command. And you should always use the message option with the shorthand -m. And messages you should use properly. I mean, I'm guilty of this, of just using very undescriptive messages like file added or daily commit, but you really should actually put messages to remind yourself of what were these changes that you're actually committing now. So just to help yourself that if you want to go back to this point in the history of your folder, a way to identify what was going on at that point. So the message we're going to use is start notes on Mars as a base. So this is just a short 1-sentence description of what were these changes. Okay, these changes were that we're starting a document about the Mars base. Okay, and then so we should use here we use inverted commas. Yes, go ahead.
I struggled. I created the nano file and I wrote the sentence, but I struggled to create the previous step, which is creating the git file.
Oh, the get init.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So if you say ls, do you have a .git file in your folder?
No, I created the planet file, but
Okay,
inside,
not the git.
yeah, not the git.
Okay, okay, cool. Then what we do, okay, so let me just delete this. So the command that you want to run is git init.
Amy,
Yes.
there's another question that's saying they're getting an error when creating the Mars file fatal.
Okay, okay, we'll come to that. So if you run git init, sorted?
Yeah,
Okay,
now it's
nice. Okay. So let's see here how okay, Prudence. Do you want to, can you share your screen?
Abdulaziz. Oh.
No, sorry, Prudence was asking about getting an error. Are you able to share your screen? So just so I can see
Yes, I can.
So I can see what's going on.
Are you able to see?
Yeah, I can see you. Okay, cool. So let's
Okay,
see
so-
where we are.
Yeah,
And if
so
you run. Mhm.
I started getting the error from here. I did create the planet file, and then when I came to all the other steps, I kept getting this, and then I created the
Yes.
Mars again, and then when
Okay.
I came to this, I also had the same
Okay.
error.
Okay,
Yes.
no problem. I think I can see how to fix this. So I think you have the same issue as Abdulaziz. It's just that you haven't run the git init yet. So you don't, if you run ls, you'll probably see that you don't have this .git file or .git folder, I should say. Okay, so
Okay.
if you run git init, so I'll put it in the chat as well. So it's just git init. Sorry, I obviously went a little bit too fast over that. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right, I've run that, so I can repeat the other steps after the step.
Yeah. Do you want to actually just share your screen again? Then we can all, then it's a great way to just recap for everyone.
Okay. All right, so I've run the command git init.
Okay, and if you do ls, let's just double check that we do have this .git file. Okay, so now we don't see it because it's hidden. So we have to use the ls-a to show all the files.
Okay, all right.
Nice, magic. Okay, there it is. Perfect. And you also notice, like probably maybe some people already noticed, that you can see this blue text that says master. So this is a nice, if you're on Windows on this git bash terminal, it's nice because it tells you, it's like a sort of indicator of which branch that you're on. So it's like a sort of just a shortcut, but yeah, that's not so important. Okay, so then what was the next step? Okay, so we want to check out to the main. So that would be git check out sorry, not yet. So git check out -b for branch and then main. Sorry, I was a bit slow.
So to be, and then main.
And then main, yeah. So it's just that we just want to basically rename our master to main, just to be in line with the, yeah,
Okay,
what people
that's
usually
okay.
do. Yeah, so we can run that. Okay, great. So we switch. So you can see now the blue text has changed from master to main. Yeah.
All right.
great. Okay, and then can you just run git status? And then I think we're good. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, then we can also add this. So now again, we can see your Mars file is there, but it's not tracked. So
Okay.
you want to add it. So we'll use git add and then the name of the file.
Add.
And then the name of the file, which is your Mars .txt. So the red, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and okay, you also have the same warning as me, but we don't need to worry about that. It just has to do with the line endings. It's not a big problem. And then
Okay.
the last step is to okay, well, let's do a git status again, just to see that that was indeed tracked. Okay, yeah, so you see now it's green. Okay, and then we can commit these changes. So we can say, okay, these are, I accept these changes, these are changes. Like this is like a checkpoint in my history of my work. So we'll use the git commit and then the message option. So -m, and then in inverted commas, we're going to give a sensible message. So let me just look again what that was. I think it was start notes on Mars as a base. But yeah, that's sort of anything, yeah, on Mars as a base.
Okay.
And then
Should I
close it. Yeah, you have to close it. If you forget to close it, what will actually happen is you'll just go to the next line, and then you can close it. You can just close it and so if you make that mistake that you forget to close it, it's not a train smash. You can just close it on the next line and then push enter. So yeah, just if people encounter that. Okay, and then you can run that. And then let's do git status again. Okay, great. So you see, we have nothing to commit and our working tree is clean. So that's what we want to see. And then in the previous report, you can see just a little bit of information about the commit. So it's got like an ID here, which is this 51FB thing. And it's just printed the note and it said, okay, you had one file that changed with 2 insertions. So it's just giving you a bit of information on what you did. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Prudence. That was nice nice to have to work on someone else's screen. Okay, let me share my terminal
Before
again.
you start,
Okay, yes.
I'm struggling with
Sorry, you muted.
sorry. So here, I figured that I wrote the file, nano file, but I want to move it from the planet to inside Git. But now I want to exit this file.
Okay.
I keep pressing Control C.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen just so I can see? Let me
You
stop
can see.
sharing then. Then I can see. Oh, here we go. I can see. Okay. So so if you do Control X, does that exit? And then for modified, so what did you, well, let's just save it. So just say yes, yeah. You just basically want to save the changes. And then, yeah, we can accept just the default name. So this would give you a chance to change the name if you wanted, but we just put enter to accept that.
Enter. I'm missing this only the last
Other step, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
when in doubt, either enter or Control C or Q. Those are your usual.
And
usual
from here,
actions.
I apologize because I didn't follow
No,
in each step. From here, how to move it to the planet, because I create the Git. But
Okay.
I want to put it in the Git file.
Okay, so it's not necessary to actually physically move it to the .git file. So anything that's in your planets folder is kind of safe to be tracked. Git will take care of it and will track the changes. So
Uh-huh.
let's do a git status here, and we can just see what's going on.
Right spelling, right?
Yeah,
It's
perfect. And if you spell it wrong, which I do constantly, it will tell you what it thinks that you're trying to say.
good.
Okay, awesome. So you've got your Mars file, but it's not tracked yet.
Mhm.
So let me put in the chat quickly the sequence of commands. So this is the thing that you're going to be running all the time. So git add, okay, with the file name, then followed by git commit with a message. So some message. Okay, and yeah, it's basically those two commands. Yeah, and then you want -m for message. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna use you as a guinea pig for like this is a bad message.
I want to create it
No, you know,
faster.
look, everyone does this. Everyone says don't do this, but everyone does it. So this is the reality. What I showed is the dream of what you would normally run. Yeah, but this is fine. But you know, I think it's sort of best practice that if there's some really important change that you're about to make and you want to just put like a checkpoint, like, hey, this was a place where something drastic is about to change, then at that moment you can put like a nice message and say like everything works, you know, checkpoint and the date or something, you know, like things like that. Okay, so if you do git status now, and then let's take a break after this, but yeah,
Okay.
great. So you're on the working tree.
And
Awesome.
then
Okay.
changing
Yeah.
from master to main.
Yes. Okay. So I think let's see what happens now if we do this, because we've already made a commit on master. So if we switch to main, it might cause a problem. But let's just see. So check out. So git check out is the command, and then -b.
The same.
Just scroll, yeah, and then -b, and then space, and then main.
Main.
Main, yeah, MAIN. Okay, so if you do git status now, okay, great, and you do just do ls. Okay, okay, perfect. It seems to have worked, yeah. Because what you could also use this branching system for is like, I mean, I'm getting a bit now into like advanced use, but say you've got a big piece of code and you want to add a major feature that's going to affect many components of your code, you might switch to a different branch called, say, I don't know, the general thing is to call it something like develop. And then you say, okay, develop, you know, feature button click or something, and then you work on that, and then when you're ready you push it back into the main thing. So that's just like an insight into what this is usually used for. But changing from master to main is really just just a convention that's like used in the community to just move away from using the word master. But yeah, okay, let's take a 10-minute break. And okay, perfect. Yeah, it's 1 minute to 10. So I'll just update the schedule, but let's come back at 10 + 10. Yeah, thanks everyone. And yeah, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, it's 10:10, so I think we can get back to it. I hope everyone could maybe get some coffee. Okay, so let me share my terminal again and just recap quickly where we are. So let me do a git status here, just to remind myself where I am. Okay, so I still have changes to be committed. Let me quickly commit those. I think that may have happened because I ran git init again. So let me just commit these changes again. So, and also just on the break, I just quickly put in the collaborative document, I created a section called essential commands, just for reference, if you wanted to remind yourself what any of these commands are. So I just put the git init, the git status, the git add. And you'll see there in git add, I used git add dot, and this is shorthand for add everything. So if you had a bunch of files that you added, you can, instead of, listing those files individually, so file 1.txt, file 2.txt, which would be the kind of manual way of adding multiple files, you can just use the git add with a dot, a full stop, to automatically add everything. Okay, so let me commit my changes here. And I'm going to put a sensible message, which is, what is my sensible message? Start notes on Mars base, Mars as a base. Okay, and I'm going to put that. Okay, cool. Let's do gits. Let's clear this. And let's run git status to see how everything is going. Okay, great. So my working tree is clean. I've committed all my changes. So you might ask yourself, okay, where did these changes, like what's actually going on here? Well, everything that I'm doing is being kept track of in the .git file. So if I, for example, deleted the mars.txt file and committed that as a change, the .git file has kept track, in the history of this project, there used to be a file that existed called mars.txt, and I can retrieve that and that information at any time. Yeah, so that's just an example. Okay, so let's make a modification now. So let's go into Nano again and go into our mars.txt file and make some edits. Okay, so over here, I'm going to go to a new line and I'm just going to add something. So let's imagine Wolfman is now putting his comments on Mars as a base, and he says the 2 moons may be a problem. Or Wolfman. Okay, and then I'm going to use control. Let me actually demonstrate. I can use control S to just save changes. So I can either use the control O to write it, or I can just a shortcut control S to save the changes, and then control X to exit. Okay, so now if I say cat Mars, I can see now I have this additional line that's been added to the file. So I'll just give everyone a second to do that themselves. So just make some sort of edit to your Mars file. And then run git status and see how it's changed. So we should see that there is a modification to our mars.txt file. So it's giving us a warning that it's been modified. Okay, and there's a useful git command, git diff, which allows you to see the difference between your head, which is your latest commit, and any changes that have been made. So if I run git diff, you can see here, it just gives me a sort of color-coded thing with a lot of information. And it's showing, okay, 2 moons may be a problem for Wolfman was added to this file. So that's what git diff is telling us. So there's the Mars A, which is the commit that we have, and then the Mars B is the changes that we can now add if we want. So let's see if I just want to add anything on that. Yeah. Okay, maybe just to say the plus indicates that something was added. So you will also sometimes, if we deleted a line, we would see like a minus, and I believe it would be in red, showing us that something was deleted. Okay, so now if we say git commit with a message add concerns about effects of Mars's moons on Wolfman. So that's our sensible message here. Okay, and I run that. Okay, something happened. It says no changes added to commit. So it's actually nothing happened. So I tried to commit something. I tried to say, okay, please keep track of these changes, but I haven't added them yet. So that's not going to work. So we first have to add. So we git add, and then our mars.txt file. Okay, now I've added it. Now I'm ready to commit it. So I'm just going to scroll up with my cursor twice to get back to the commit, so I don't have to retype the whole thing again. And then I'm going to run that, and now I've committed it. Okay, now you can see we're getting the message, something a bit more expected. So it's telling us, it's giving us the ID now of our new commit. So this is a unique ID for this that identifies this like checkpoint in our work. And it's just printing out our message, and it's saying, okay, we had one insertion in our one file that changed. Great. Okay, so we can maybe we can just look like at a schematic of what this add versus commit is doing. Just paste that in the document. So I'm going to paste it in, let's make a new section for diagrams. Okay. So when we say, so inside, we can imagine what's going on inside this git folder, and git add is what we technically refer to as staging the change. So we're saying we'd be putting it on the stage to wait to be committed. So we can actually add multiple things. So I could make a change, add that change, and then continue working and add that change again, and then make one big commit at the end and say, okay, I updated my pipeline or whatever sensible message so the commit actually commits the changes to the repository and creates something that I can go back to in the future. Check, okay, nothing in the chat. Okay, great. So that's just a sort of schematic of what's going on. So let's make another change. So let's go back into Nano, Mars.txt, and let's add a new line for what the mummy thinks about Mars. So let's say, but the mummy will appreciate the lack of humility. Okay, and then I'm gonna Control S to save and Control X to exit. Okay, and then let me just quickly cap that to check that indeed it is there. Okay, great. I've got my 3 lines of text. Now, let's do git diff again and have a look what that looks like now. Okay, so you can see we're now comparing our latest commit, which was the commit where we already committed the changes referring to the 2 moons. Again, we've now showing that we made this additional line. Okay, so what if we stage our changes? So we add them, and let's see what difference that makes to showing git diff. So let's say git add mars.txt. Okay, and now I'm going to run git diff again, and let's see. Okay, there's showing no difference. So as far as git diff is concerned, even though I haven't committed these changes yet, so if I run git status, we'll see that there are uncommitted changes. Yeah, so it's green. So I've staged this change, but I have not, it's still to be committed, but git diff is not actually showing anything. So if we want git diff to show us differences also relating to what has already been changed, we just use the option staged, and then it should show us. Yeah, so now we're back. So that's just something to keep in mind is, you know, if you have already staged changes, they're not going to show up in git diff. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's commit this latest change. So git commit message, and let's say discuss concerns about Mars's climate for okay, so that's what those changes were about. Great, so let me just clear the screen. Yeah, and if anyone wants me to repeat any of the commands, don't hesitate, I can put them in the chat.
Yeah, and one question here, just to make it, every change we are making to the file, we need to confirm that, that there is change, and we need to add the command git commit.
Commit, yes,
Every
exactly,
step.
exactly. Every step. Look, I mean, obviously you can imagine a real situation, you're not going to do this for every sentence that you write. I mean, typically, you should try to, I think when I first started using Git, I didn't commit that often. I would maybe commit every like day or so. But as I've used it more and more, I've realized that it is good to do this more often than not, but obviously not every sentence. So I think rule of thumb is if you've done any significant work or any work that you really would like to not lose, you know, think of this as like when would you say you were working on a Word document, when would you save it? When would you make sure to go, you know, Control S to save? Yeah, so yeah,
And
every so often.
usually if we are two people working on the same project, I need to do two times git commit with my work, then after joining their work to mine, git commit.
Yeah, so that's going to be, so we'll get to that. We'll get to how that works, but it doesn't quite work like that. So what actually happens, I mean, I can just say this now on a higher level. So when you're collaborating, you would usually have a remote version of your repository. So by remote, I mean hosted somewhere on the internet, which typically would be GitHub. Then you would have a copy of that remote repository on your computer, and so would your collaborator. So you've each got a copy, and this remote repository is like your place where you're saving everything. Yeah, that's keeping the record very. So you would make your changes and you would add them and commit them just like we're practicing now. There would be no difference. The only difference will be is that you will send your changes to the remote repository when you want to give your collaborator access to them. So your collaborator will not have access to what is going on in your computer until you send it to the remote repository. And then they can fetch those changes for themselves, and vice versa. So when your collaborator makes changes available, you can then pull those, well, which is called pull. You can pull those changes to your local computer. So no, so basically the answer to your question is no, you don't have to do this twice. You would just work as usual with git add and git commit, and then your collaborator would do the same.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, where are we doing for time? Okay, great. So where are we now? Oh, okay. So another nice, another useful command is git log. So if I say git, so this probably seems a bit tedious now, like we're making changes one line at a time, but it was really to generate an interesting log. So if we run git log, you'll see a log of all the things that have been going on right from the beginning. So we started a node on Mars, we added concerns about the moons, and we added discussion of the climate. So this is great. So now if I realized, oh my gosh, okay, I made a huge mistake in my understanding of what a wolf man is, and it's nothing, the moons don't affect them at all, I can revert back to my original version. And this long, this is the long identifier for the commit. So we saw before this like shortened version. This is the sort of long unique code that identifies each of these commits. And it's also got useful information like who made these changes. So that came from what we set up earlier when we did our git configs. So the reason that it says here Amy is because we actually set that up. If we hadn't set that up, I'm not sure if it would just maybe be blank actually. But yeah, this is great. So it's tracked who made the changes, it's tracked when they were made, the date, the time, and so on. So it can be super useful. And yeah, if your log is very long, you might have to page through it. I wonder if I can show this, or yeah, no, let me not do that. But yeah, you can imagine after several months, this log is going to get really long. You can page through it, and then to exit, you would use a queue. Yeah. Oh, you can also limit the number of things that the log shows. So I can say, for example, log dash 2. Okay, and then it's only going to show the 2 most recent changes. So that's useful if you've got a lot of changes. So I can even just say 1, and it's just showing the most recent change. Okay, and then there's also, other options. You can obviously use the help to just see, but you can also say like 1 line as an option, and then it will just give you like a much shortened version of the log, just saying blah, blah. And then you can see here, now, instead of giving us the long identifier for the commit, it's just giving us the shorthand code that we can use to refer to this commit, which we'll use in a little bit. Okay, so one important thing to know is that Git will not track empty folders. So I think this is just something that it does by default, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, we don't need to keep track of an empty folder because there's no information in that folder. So let's make a directory called spaceships. Okay, so I've just done a make directory. So if I do ls-a, right, let me clear the screen so this is at the top for everyone. ls-a, so I've just run make directory mkdri and then spaceships. So now I have a spaceships folder, and if I say git status, it hasn't recognized that. So it's not the same as when I created the mars.txt. It recognized that it's changed. Here it hasn't recognized it. Even if I say git add spaceships, it's just gonna ignore me. It's gonna say, I don't know what you're talking about. It's basically ignoring my command. So what we can do now is just create some empty files inside spaceship, and then we'll see that now then it will work. So let's say spaceships, let's create I don't know, Apollo 11, and then let's create another spaceship called spaceship called Sputnik 1. Oops, what did I do? Did I make a spelling mistake? I did indeed, because there's more spaceships. Okay. And let's do let's say ls recursive, just so I can see. Okay, great. So inside my spaceships folder, I have Apollo and Sputnik. And now when I run git status, it should it's now saying, okay, you have a folder now that has stuff in it, which I'm willing to keep track of. So we can do our usual add, and I'm going to be lazy now and use the dot to just add everything. And then I'm going to say git commit with a message, added some initial thoughts on spaceships. Great. Okay, so it's created those files. Let's the screen, and let's do a git status and see where we are. Okay, great. So our working trees team, we've committed the change, and let's have a look at the log quickly. So, yeah, created some fourth spaceship. Yes, please. Ali, go ahead.
Hi, I got a bit behind now. You went a bit too fast.
Okay, sorry about that. Where do you want to share your screen and we do it together, or would you prefer I go back?
I'll share my screen.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. That's super helpful. That's also nice for other people. Okay, awesome. Okay, so you have an Apollo 11. That is great. So yeah, let's think about what we want to do. So what do you think we should be doing now?
I'm really lost now.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, you're not sure. Okay, that's great. Then it gives me a chance to recap. Okay, so what we've done, so let's see. Okay, so you had the same thing. So if we just look on your line with touch, so you can see you also had the same spelling mistake as me. So that's why there's only one Apollo 11 and not, it didn't add Sputnik, but that's fine. That's not serious. So we've got one spaceship in your case, and we've just created these files. So we now need to tell Git that we wanted to keep track of these changes. So if we run git status, we should see that it's now recognized that we've added something. So you can see that it has. Whereas previously, when we just had an empty spaceships folder, it didn't recognize that as a change because it's just an empty folder. But now it's saying, okay, something interesting happened inside the spaceships folder. Would you like to add that? So yes, we do. So we're gonna use the git add to add it. And then, yeah, so the text in red, the text that will show up in red here is very helpful, like as a hint for what can you add? It's basically a list of the things that you could possibly add. So in your case, it's just spaceships. So after add, you're gonna have spaceships. And then if you use the tab, it should do the autocomplete. Yeah, awesome. So now if you run that, and let's run git status again, just to check that it's added this. Yeah, indeed. So it's green. And you can also see here that it's kind of giving you also a hint that if you made a mistake and you actually decided, no, I don't want to add this item, you can see it's saying they git restore staged. So if you want to undo the staging of a file, you can use this git restore -- staged and then the name of the file. So that's just I like Git in that respect, is it usually tries to tell you what it thinks that you might want to know. Okay, and so now we can commit this change. So we can use the git commit with a message.
What is the message?
Yeah, maybe we just say spaceships added. That seems like a sensible, I forget what the actual message that they suggest is, but let's do that. But just something sensible that when you read it, you will remember what you did. Okay. And then let's just check git status one more time, just to see that everything worked. Great. And then if you print the log with git log, you'll see a history of all the things that you've done. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I hope if anyone else is also feeling stuck, please, yeah, don't hesitate.
I don't
So
think I
let's-
stuck, but I want to confirm. Am I on the
of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry about the background noise. I don't know how bad it is, but it's hopefully not coming through too loud.
No, that's fine. So
Okay, yeah.
here, yeah. So I add the spaceships and git states from here down. I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah. So here you can see under your git status, even though you've added spaceships, it doesn't see that. It's not alert. It's not like, yeah, it's just saying, oh, there's nothing happening. So this is correct because spaceships is still empty. There's nothing in spaceships. Okay, so if we put something in spaceships, then it will allow us to add it, or I shouldn't say allow, but it will recognize that as something that it can usefully keep track of. So do you want to just put something in spaceships? So just maybe use the touch command to just create an empty file. And then inside of spaceships, so we just use the spaceships. And then the example they used was like Apollo 11 and Spark, but we can make up our own spaceships if we want.
So how to write it? Is it
/ so spaceships / and then the name of the file that we're going to create. Yeah. So say Apollo 11. Yeah.
That's it. Enter.
Yeah. Enter. Okay, so now if you run git status, it should do something. It should recognize something. Yes. So now you see the difference between this and what was going on above. So now you're able to add these changes. Okay, so there's still nothing interesting in your log because you haven't, well, nothing new in the log, I should say, because you haven't created a new commit yet.
So I need to git commit first.
But also git add first, because if you run commit now, you can run commit now, but it's going to say that there's nothing to commit because there's nothing. Yeah, so if we look like at the diagram on the collaborative notes, actually I can put, okay, no, let's not put a more complicated one. So when we make a change, it's a change, and git is just going to recognize, hey, that's a change. Then we add it, so it's now git add, and now it's staged. We able to commit that as a change, and then we run git commit, and now that's logged as a change to the repository. Yeah. So if you ran commit now, I think it would just say nothing to commit because you don't have anything staged yet.
Yeah.
Because those files are untracked. Yeah.
Nothing added to commit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
we
then
need
you see it even suggests that you use git add. Do you see that at the end? It says use git add to track. So if you forget this, it's quite helpful. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, let's take a sort of, well, a cognitive break for me, but not for you guys. Let's do maybe an exercise. So let's see what we have here. Okay, let's do a committing changes. So just above the diagrams, exercise 3. So commit message. Which of the following commit messages would be the most appropriate for the last commit to Mars? So the last commit that we made was to Mars was the one about the change of the climate for the mummy. You remember it was the sentence about the humidity. So you can put a cross next to the one you think is most appropriate. But as I said, this is more of a guideline than what actually happens in reality. And then I'm going to put another exercise as well that you didn't go to when you got that. Sorry, I'm just going to, okay, no, I can move this. Okay, we have at least one person that's awake. Okay, and then if you're done with that, you can go to the next thing, which is which commands below would save the changes of my file to my local Git repository. So let's imagine I create a file called my file, and the question is which series of commands, option 1, option 2, option 3, or option 4, do you think would save these changes? So that's the next exercise. I'll give you guys a second to think about those. Okay, great. So yes, option 3 is indeed correct. So you would add the file and then commit it. So option 1 is not going to work because you haven't staged your change yet. So it's a sort of empty commit. It won't work. And then option 2, we don't want to rerun git init again, because presumably we've already set up this project. We've already initialized it as a repository. If we initting it, especially, I think even will actually give an error, because init probably does not accept variables or options. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, I think we're good on the git commit. So the next exercise is actually going to ask you to just do something in your repository, or in your planets repository. So staging area can hold changes for any number of files that you want to commit in a single snapshot. Okay, so this is, we're going to actually do this. You're going to try this yourself. So add some text to the Mars file, noting your decision to consider Venus as a base. So basically just add a sentence to your mars.txt, then create a new file called venus.txt with some thoughts on Venus, and then add the changes from both files to the staging area, and then make one single commit relating to both of those changes. So I'm going to give you, let's say maybe 5 minutes to try that yourself. And then we can check in and see how it went, and if anyone got stuck on any of those steps. Yeah, and if you get stuck, please, yeah, you can just raise your hand straight away, and we can work through it together.
Yeah, so it opened a new, not sure what you call it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Let's see. Okay, cool. That looks perfect.
so what the
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so let's okay, maybe let's see. Please enter a commit message. Your changes not starting to make node. Changes to be committed. Okay, well we can just yeah, it
this is
wants
the
you to give
sensible.
commit. Yeah, so this would be the sensible message. So let's just say you know, Mars exploration, maybe something like that. Okay, and then we can save this.
Control O.
Yeah, so Control O, and then yeah, and just say enter. And then X, Control X to get out of here. Okay, great. Yeah, so typically you don't, oh, okay, so this is cool. So the reason that it took you into that screen is because you didn't provide a message when you were putting in your command. So you see here you have git commit, but there's no message. So it's required to have a message. So since you didn't specify the message in the command, which is fine. I mean, it's like, it's not a mistake. I mean, it's not a mistake, it's fine. It took you to the screen for you to add a message.
Which didn't appear to you because you put #m and quotes. Yeah.
Exactly. So because I provided the option and then the input with my text, it didn't take me to the screen. Yeah. So if you
And
ever forget to put a message, this is what will
and here the problem that I didn't create the message for Venus, right? Because we already created a message for Mars.
Oh, yes, sorry. So okay, so let's look at the log. Let's see git log. Yeah, okay, so you see, sorry, it should have been Venus exploration.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, instead of, okay, so it's not possible to edit that message, but it is possible to like basically discard that commit. And I would have to actually look up how you do that. So in this case, you know, if not hurting anyone, we just remember that we made a mistake because I'm not sure actually how to edit it. You see, the thing with Git is like there's a very few commands that you have to use to basically use it on a day-to-day basis. And there are super advanced users who know all these tips and tricks, but I'm more of a practical day-to-day user. So I'm sorry, I have no idea how to fix this.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, cool, great. And sorry, if you run git status, do you see anything, is there anything untracked?
Yes.
Is your spaceships untracked?
Yeah, so
Okay, so your spaceships are. So this is actually a nice illustration of how things can work. So let's imagine you were doing work on the spaceships, but you're not ready yet to save that. It's still a work in progress. You don't need to commit that. You can leave it like this. You can leave it as untracked, but it just means, you know, like if you delete it, you won't be able to like revert to that history again. So it is possible to pick and choose what you're deciding to track and what you're deciding to commit. So you don't necessarily need to commit everything that you've done.
And here get status, it didn't show anything because the files are empty, right? Or because I already wrote on Mars and Venus.
Yes, so that is, you committed that. So those changes have been committed, which is why it's not showing up here. Yeah. So because remember the get status is only showing us, you know, things that we need to potentially do. It's like sort of prompting you like, oh, what do you want to do? Oh, maybe you want to add these changes. Yeah. But if you do ls and you look at everything in your folder, you'll see, yeah, there's your Mars, there's your Venus, it's all there. But the get status is just showing what is like to do. It's kind of a to-do list.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay, perfect. Then I think 5 minutes have probably passed. So I'm not gonna reproduce this on my side. I'm just going to give everyone 1 minute to see if they want to share anything, or if they got stuck, or maybe they want to show their log and share with us what they did. And then what we can do also, while people are thinking, is I'm just going to put this exercise here, this exercise 6, and I'm just going to put it as optional. If you want to try it out in the break, it's basically just practicing the whole life cycle. So the idea is to just create a new repository, so a new folder, a new repository called bio, and you're just going to put 3 lines of like biographical text, commit those changes, and then modify something, make a change, commit that, and just see that you're comfortable with the whole process of like setting up the repository. Just double check, but I'm just going to put that as optional. If you feel comfortable with it already, then don't worry. So we'll just leave that to do that in the break. So yeah, maybe now, yeah, does anyone want to share anything? Any places that they got stuck, or we also check the chat. Okay, cool. So it looks like everyone is good. So let's take a 10-minute break, and let's take an 8-minute break and come back at 11. And then we're gonna look at 2 more things briefly, and then we're gonna jump to GitHub, which is gonna be awesome. So yeah, see you guys at 11. It's 11 o'clock. Welcome back. Yeah, apologies for the background noise. So let me share. Okay, so I just want to cover like a sort of summarized version. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just of two topics. So that is exploring the history and then also using the git ignore. So there's just two things I want to cover briefly, but like I said, we will share the material at the end of the course. So if you want to go back to any of these topics, you can go back and look at it in a bit more detail. So I'm just going to give like a brief overview now, just to make you aware of that these things do exist. So we've seen, let me clear my screen. So we've seen the git diff command. So if I run git diff now, nothing is happening, or it's not showing anything because my working tree is clean and I don't know anything staged. I don't need to stage anything. There's no, I haven't made any changes since my last commit. But we can also use the git diff in a slightly more advanced way. And we can say, look, please show me, let's see, head mars.txt. Oh, sorry, I have to make a change first. Sorry, apologies for that. So let me make a quick change. So let me say nano, let's go back to my Mars document. And let me add one more line here, an ill condition. No, let me just add some hello world. Okay, I'm gonna save that and exit. So now I do have some changes, but I can specifically say, please show me from the head, which is the last commit, show me the difference from Mars.txt. So when this is useful is if you want to look into the changes of a specific file. So I might have made changes in 100 files, but I only want to see the change that I've made specifically for the Mars file. So that's just going to show me that that I've added one line hello world to the Mars.txt file. If let's say I'd maybe added like 100 data folders or data files, CSV files that I know what's in those, but I'm just like, oh, I don't remember what did I do to Mars.txt last night at midnight? And then you can use git diff with a specific file name just to look at the difference. You can also go further back. So let's have a look at the log. So I mentioned that, let's do log 1 line because I don't want to use that super long identifier. So I can use these shorthand identifiers to identify the commits. So I can also use that here. So I can say, show me the difference between my first commit, which is identified by P37653B, and show me that for the Mars.txt. So currently the change that I made, please compare that to the first commit that I made. And you see, compared to the first commit that I made, there's actually been 3 lines that have been added. So this is just useful to go back and see over time what's happened. So you can also use a shorthand notation. I've used this B3, this B, this long code here this is the identifier, like the ID of the commit, but I could also use head and then the shorthand tilde1 to say how many commits back I want to go. So head is the current, where I currently am in my commit, so the most recent commit that I made, but tilde1 is 1 commit before that commit, and 2 and 3 and so on. So because this was 1, 2, 3 commits back, my first commit, I can use the shorthand head tilde3, and that will have the same output as this git diff with the identifier of the commit. So that can be useful for just going back and seeing. And you can also use you can also use these long identifiers. It's just that, you know, you would rather copy and paste them, but it's just easier to use the short. Yeah, okay, and then also coupled with that, I'll just very briefly say that we can also use checkout in this way. So let's say I've looked now at the difference between Mars and 3 commits back, and I've realized actually, you know, these 3 lines that I added, I don't want those anymore. I can check out to that version. So if I say checkout, and then I can say head 3 commits back, please revert to the mars.txt file. So before we do that, let's quickly just look what's in the file so we can do a comparison later. So that's what's in my file currently. And now I'm going to check out to a previous version. Okay, so it's updated the file now. And if I print out what's in the file, you can see I've reverted back to the previous version of the file. So this is just, yeah, very briefly how you do that. Okay, and then, yeah, so then let's quickly talk about using the git ignore. So this is practically very useful. So it tells Git if there's things that you would like it to permanently ignore that you're changing. And a typical, at least what I've come across as a typical use case is that is for large data sets. So say you're working with some big data set, you don't want to, for example, send that to a remote repository because like a website like GitHub, there is a file limit size. So you cannot just upload infinitely sized files. So you have a very large, if you have a very large data set, the idea is not to store that information. This is really about what work that you've done. So presumably you have another way to back up your data. Maybe it's hosted somewhere, or you have a backup in the cloud. So how we do that, how that's done in Git, is we first need to well, let's create something that we can ignore. So I'm just going to make a directory called results. Okay, so I have an empty thing, and I'm just going to put some stuff in there. So I'm going to say, okay, let's just change directory to that file just to so things are faster. So I'm going to say touch, and I'm going to make some CSV files. So CSV A, B, C, CSV, and then I just imagine that this contains my large data set, for example. Let's go back up. So just list everything. Yeah, because I've got my results and I've got my files there. So now what we do to create the ignore, we do it in the same way as we usually do. So we do it with nano, and then git ignore. I have to spell it correctly. So dot git ignore has to be the name. This is important. So you need to use this exact name. So now I'm into my git ignore. And then in this file, I would list everything that I wanted to ignore. So in our case, we want to ignore, let's say we just ignore results. I think I don't want to put that, results. And let's say a CSV. So let's say A is some gigantic file that I want to ignore. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to quit out. And let's print what's in the git ignore. Okay, and you can see results such as in there. And if I do a git status now, you can see results is there, but it shouldn't add the two of the files. So let's actually check that this is the case. So if I say git add, git commit, and I'm going to say my data added, and I commit that. Okay, so you can see it's not actually showing. Yeah, so it should have ignored at least one of those files. Okay, and you can also do this with the wildcards that we saw yesterday. So if we go back into our git ignore file here, you can also say results, or we can say all files that are CSV files. Please ignore those. So you can also use wildcards for this. So if you know all your big data files, their names are something like data underscore and maybe the date that you collected them or something like that, you can do this with a wildcard. So it's just useful to know that this is possible. You probably, if you're new to Git, you're probably not going to be this is not probably not going to be something that you're going to be using immediately, but it's just something good to keep in the back of your mind if you are working on a bigger project, that it is possible to ignore. The other way that you might use this is, say you have some like secret login details, like an API key. Maybe you're submitting jobs to some online system and you have a secret key that you use. You don't want to share that publicly, so that you don't want that to be uploaded to your remote repository, because maybe that's a public thing. You can also make sure that you don't make the mistake of uploading it by adding that specific file to the Git ignore. Yeah. So let me go out of this. Okay, cool. So now let's get back to doing something practical. So now we're going to work with the remotes in GitHub. So I would really let me stop sharing, and I'm going to share my screen over here. And if everyone can, basically the goal here is for everyone to create their own GitHub repository on GitHub. So let me just get to my homepage here. Share my screen. Share my browser. Okay, so this is what my homepage looks like. So you've got my repositories, you've got some information about the work that you've been doing. And to create a new repository, we just go to repositories and then we click new. So I'm going to run through this once and then I'll wait for everyone, and I'm sure someone will need a bit of help. So let's call this repository. Let's see, what are we going to call this? Oh, let's call it planets, because now we want to upload the work that we've been doing. So planets. So it's important that it has the same name as the folder. So the folder we are working with is indeed planets, all lowercase. So that's the name of the repository. We're not going to actually change anything here. So there are a bunch of options. You can add a description. You can choose to make your repository private, which is useful if you just want to keep track of work for yourself. Maybe you're working on a paper or something like that, and you don't want that to be public yet. You can also add a README, which is just something that will also automatically get displayed in your repository. So I can show you an example of that in a second. And then you can also, there's also these automatically generated Git ignores that can be really nice. Let's see if there's actually one for R. There is definitely one for Python. So if you include this git ignore, it will just sort of add a bunch of things that typically when you're working in Python, you want to automatically ignore that. So like things like your virtual environments and stuff like that. But yeah, there's just something to be aware of, that the option is there. And you can also add a license. So whether you want to make your work like that anybody can use it, or you want to say, no, you can use it, but not for commercial use, things like that. But we're not going to change anything. We're just going to say create a repository planets, and then we're going to create. Okay, and takes us to this screen. So let me give everyone a second, and if you can just put a thumbs up in the chat when you've successfully created your first repository, and then I know I can go further. Okay, cool. I can see one thumbs up and one done in the chat. Yes.
While waiting for the others to write, can you please just repeat why we are using ignore files? I followed you while writing the code, but I didn't understand why
Okay,
we
what
are.
the point of that is. Okay, so it's useful when we know that we're going to connect our local repository to a remote repository. So we know we're going to be sending files to the cloud, but there may be certain files that we want to ignore. We don't want to track the changes in those files. And that's typically, like as I said, very big data files. So there's better ways to back that up than using Git. Git is not, the purpose of Git really is to keep track of kind of work that you're doing, not that you just collected, 100 megabytes or 100 gigabytes worth of data. So typically it's large data files you want to ignore, but then also things that you definitely don't want to be publicly available, like things like API keys, I don't know, passwords or usernames or I think in my case, I've only really had this for like API keys, just wanting to ignore that. But any sort of personal information, say maybe you have a file that has your login details for something that you use in some automated pipeline, and you don't want that to be going to GitHub.
So basically, just like telling Git that avoid touching this file, or
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
don't see it.
Pretend it's not here. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you don't see this file. Yeah.
Mhm,
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. Okay, I have at least one more thumbs up. So yeah, awesome. Okay, so now we have to go through a little bit of admin to actually connect this GitHub repository to our local repository. So okay, the first thing we're going to do is what are we going to do? Okay, so we're going to copy this this line here. So yours will look different. So I have, okay, first of all, you want to make sure that you're on this SSH option. So we're going to, you have two options here to use the HTTPS or the SSH, but it's recommended to use SSH because this is a secure way of downloading the file. So it's like an encryption for the files. So we're going to be the SSH option, and then we're going to copy that to our clipboard. And then we're going to jump over back to the terminal. Let me jump over to my terminal. Great, okay. And then I'm going to use the command. Let me clear the screen. And let's just do a quick git status just to make sure. Okay, so you can see because sorry, I'm jumping back now, but you can see I removed that line from the git ignore. My git ignore is now blank, and now it recognizes the results as something that can be staged, because I removed it from the git ignore. But if I put it back, it would ignore it again. Okay, so right, I digress. Okay, so we're going to say git remote add origin, and then I'm going to paste that thing that I copied earlier. So it's the git, it's something of the structure git at github.com : your username and then the name of the repository. And then we're going to run that. So it's adding, I mean, if we just translate this into plain English, it's adding this remote repository. It's connecting our local repository with the remote repository. And if we run the git remote -v command, it will show, okay, this is where it's looking. It's looking at this repository from Amy at github.com. So it's just to confirm that it did work. Okay, so let's see now. I believe that this is going to give me an error. Yes, okay, so now what I've tried to do here with this git pull command. So the two commands that are going to be the most important for connecting to the remote repository is going to be the pull and the push command. So pull is saying get all the changes from the remote repository, and push, as the name kind of suggests, is going to push all your changes to the remote repository. But when I run this git pull command, it says, no, your permission is denied. You do not have access to this. And the reason for that is that we haven't set up the SSH yet. We haven't set up our private and public key so that our remote and local repositories can like talk to each other in a secure way. Okay, so let me wait. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to write, but I'm not sure why mention that end in the shell page. I want to write here.
Let me stop sharing and then you can share. Oh, sorry. Yes, I got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is from the last task, and now I want.
Cool.
But
Okay.
there's no $sign. The $sign.
Oh, I see. Okay. If just scroll up once. I don't know, just with your keypad, with your keyboard. I don't know. Sorry. Okay, so go all the way to the bottom with the mouse. Yeah. Okay. And now just use your arrow keys to scroll up once.
This voice shows like it's an error or something.
Oh, okay. Because what we really want to do is just use Q. We want to just use Q to quit. So you should be able to type Q, but
yeah,
there we go. Got
Q.
it. Okay, Q. Yeah, it's Q or Control C. If Q doesn't work, try Control C.
And here, what happened exactly? So is it like
okay? So what happened is that your git log is quite long now. It's more than one page. So it's kind of taking you to a separate window to show you, well, not a separate window, but a separate page to show you, oh, here's all your logs. And then you can just queue to get out of that. Yeah.
And just a side question. So how to save my work here if I want to come or open it again? So it will be saved here or
so the commands that you have run in the past are saved to the history, which is unfortunately a topic that we didn't get to in the last thing, but there is a history of the commands that you've run. But in terms of the output of the commands, I think you would have to save that manually. So let's say you wanted to save this log for just future reference, you could write this log to a text file. And the way that you would do that is just with the pipe thing, which is another unfortunately advanced thing that we didn't get to. But there are ways to write the output to files instead of just.
It's not safe to close the window and leave your work inside. It's not safe.
It is safe. It is safe in the sense that the commits that you've made and the files that you've added and those sort of things, those are safe. Those are saved. So if you close this window now and you reopened it, and then you navigated to your repository and you typed git log, it would print out the exact same thing. So in that sense, it's saved, but in terms of what's actually printed to your terminal is not saved. So the history of the commands that you've run, but if you close the terminal and reopen it again, it would be a blank screen.
Yeah. I tried when I opened today. I tried to access yesterday work, but I couldn't. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yesterday, so you could just Google, how to find the history. So you can see the history of all the commands that you ran yesterday, but not the outputs of those commands. So if something was printed to the screen, that's not saved.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so let's do a bit of admin and set up the SSH. So, okay, so I'm gonna demo this on my side. So if you run the command ls and then let's just show all, and let's just show the detailed list as well. So I'm going to use the L command to just get like a detailed list. And then I want to show what's in my SSH folder in my home directory. Okay, so you can see I have quite a few things in this folder. So you may not even have this folder. So I'm curious to see if anyone runs this, do you actually have an SSH? So you probably might get something like, it doesn't exist, or you can't access it yet because you don't have it. Okay, but if you don't, so not to worry. So see, I already have keys set up for different accounts, but we're going to create a new key. So if you've run this ls-a-l and then home directory.ssh and you see nothing or it gives an error, don't need to worry about that. Okay, so let me just clear this and then run that. Okay, so you can see, okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do SSH -key gen -t and then EED 255. I will paste this in a second in the chat with the option C, and then you're also going to use your email address. So let me just say here your email. Okay. So this is the email that you use. Whoops. This is the email that you use for your GitHub account. So I'll just paste this in the chat. So that is the command that we want to use. I'm going to change this your email to my email. Okay, and now it's going to ask me for some inputs. So maybe it makes sense to just watch with me and see how I'm doing it, and then I'll give you a chance to do it on your own side. So the first question it's going to ask is enter the file to save the key. Okay, if we leave this blank, it's just going to use the default name, which is fine. So we're happy with that. I think it's this EED 255 or 9, so 019. So we're just going to accept that. So we're going to push enter. Then it's going to ask me if I want to enter a passphrase. So you can set a password for these files, but you know, I'm working on my own personal computer. No one else is using this computer. I'm not going to worry about using a passphrase, but you can set one if you like. So if I leave this blank and just push enter, it's essentially an empty password. So I'm going to confirm my empty password, just pushing enter again, and now it's generated the key for me. And if we run the ls again, the previous command to look at files in my SSH folder, you can see now it's appeared here. 2 new files have appeared, these 2 files. So these are these are the keys that I've generated. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a chance to do that on your side. But essentially you run the command. So the command that's in the chat, you replace the email address with your email address that you used for your GitHub account. And then we just accept all the defaults. Okay, and then if you can just again maybe put a thumbs up in the chat when you're good to go, and then otherwise, of course, ask if you are stuck. So what's nice also about this procedure is that you're not going to have to do this every time. So this seems very tedious, but really we're only going to have to do it once, and then this will be your key to use on your computer. The only time you would have to do this again is if you were working now on a different computer. But at least if you're working from the same computer, you only have to do this once.
I'm stuck.
Okay, cool, awesome. I'm glad, because this is the hardest part. Yeah.
So
Okay, so we got a lot a lot of text here.
Now here I try to git pull, and this is the
Okay.
message.
Yes, exactly. It says no, sorry, can't do that.
I put yes, and here the answer. Then I try to follow you,
Ah, okay.
cannot
Okay.
access. Then I couldn't copy and paste the same message, so I wrote
Okay.
it.
Okay, let me check. Okay, I think the only problem here was just the capital C. So just so if you scroll up to get this command again, and then just make the small c a capital C, I think that's the only issue. Hopefully it will work. Nice. Okay, there we go. So now we can just essentially push enter. We're not going to change the name. We're not going to put a passphrase. Okay, and now, yeah, I'm curious to see on your PC where it puts it, whether it puts it in the home directory.ssh. So can you
ls.
try the list? Yeah, and then see again. Oh, that's interesting. What is this now?
You are
Okay,
asking, is it in the remote repository?
No. I'm just wondering. So, what happens when you generate these SSH keys? Like typically, is it has a default place that it puts the private key, and usually that's in your home directory in a folder called .ssh. So like in my computer, that's where my SSH things are. So it looks like something interesting happened in your folder. So, but it's fine. We can just delete some of these files. So, but let's check first if your key was actually correctly generated. So can you do ls and then -al? AL, okay, and then space, and then your home directory, so ~.ssh. And let's see if it's there. Yeah, no, it's not there. I wonder where it put it. It should be in users. Yeah, I see it's put it in users/zs8.ssh, but I think your home directory maybe is OneDrive. So if you just say cd and then enter, so nothing, no text, and then just say pwd. Yeah, so this should be, so we should have an SSH folder here.
So ls.
Yeah, let's do ls.ssh. Am I spelling something wrong, maybe? Yeah, I see you have known hosts there, but you don't have your file that you just created. Because if you scroll up a little bit, you can see it says here, enter the file to save the key. So it should be in C users. So it should be at this location, but we don't see it.
The file name is id.
Yes, exactly. So it's,
I will search.
yeah, I
This
don't
is
know
it.
why. Yeah, maybe you can search and just see
Mhm.
where it might have gone.
But how this is mandatory for the, is it?
Okay, yeah, so what we'll do now is we're going to copy, so it's generated a key pair, a public key and a private key, and we're going to copy the private key and save it on the GitHub website. So that's the next step. So can you try, let's see, because this is where we might run into an issue. If you say cat, so CAT, and then tilde, so space, and then tilde .ssh. Sorry, tilde /, sorry, so for home directory /.ssh. So no space between the, yeah. Okay, and then the name of the file, which should be, so / after SSH, sorry, no space again. backslash, yeah, and then ID. And so just try tab here and see if it auto completes. I don't think it will.
No,
Does
it
it,
didn't.
does it? Yeah, you see, because it doesn't know that file is not in that location, which is interesting. So what we can do, so maybe you can try quickly, just see if you can find this file just by searching it. And then if that doesn't work, what we'll do is we'll just generate it and we'll tell it where it must put the file. We'll just be explicit. We won't use the default.
Okay.
Yeah. So just try that and then let me know if you manage to find it.
Sure.
And
And
then,
in the search bar.
yeah, maybe just in the file explorer, yeah, in just try it manually. So you would need to search from like this PC and then like your local drive. So you're sort of searching your whole computer essentially for this file. Let me see if I find it easily on my computer. Okay, is anyone else having the same issue, or does everyone else? I just want to see, yeah, please, if you're also having the same issue where you actually can't find your key pair that you just generated, please let us know and then we can have a look at it together as well.
It's taking time, so loading
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No problem. It's good because once we know this, then we know by default where it's putting this stuff. It has to be somewhere.
What about you? Where is it?
Yeah, so for me, it's in my exactly like yours. It should be in the C/users/ I think it's Amy in my case. .ssh. So it's for me, it is in that location. So if I use the same ls command, like I'll just put in the chat, this command, I see that file. I see the file. So I'll actually just put the name of the file. So we should see this file. Oops. This is the file that we all should see. Because the problem is that if we try to run the cat command that I just gave you, so this command, it's not going to print the information that we need to the terminal. So ultimately we need to run this cat command. But if we can't find the file, we can't do that. So let's see. Okay. So yeah, maybe people who are able to get to this point can just give a reaction to the message that I sent this cat. So if you can run the cat command and you see something like this, I'll just copy like an example here. So if you see something like this, then you're good. So okay, as Abdulaziz, we're not there yet for you, but we'll get there. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. What you could do in the meantime while that's searching is have a look in your OneDrive. So let's go to the terminal again. Okay. And let's see, so just remind me again, yeah, it's OneDrive. Okay, so if you cd change directory to OneDrive. Okay. Yeah. And try ls .ssh here, and let's see if it appears. I think you'll need a space. Yep.
Without forward slash?
Yeah, without, well, you can put it, but it's okay. Yeah, so there isn't, I thought maybe there'd be an SSH in your OneDrive.
Why not searching ID and the actual name of the file?
Yeah. Yeah, we can try that. Is it underscore or dash? I think it's underscore. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Let's go. So can you scroll up in your commands all the way to the one where you created the key? So not the next one. So SSH key gen. Yeah, that one. So let's run that again, but let's this time, instead of just accepting the default, we can be like very specific about where we wanted to put this thing. Yeah, that one. Okay, so let's run that again. Okay, so now instead of just putting blank here, let's just actually explicitly type this text. So /C, sorry, /C uses yeah, so your whole the exact path, yeah. So it's essentially exactly what's written there, but we're just gonna type it out.
Let me just check the.
Yeah. Okay. So if we want to put it in the OneDrive, then you just need to use the tilde / first, though. So yeah, OneDrive, which is in the home directory. Yeah.
Why not do it like this? Then desktop.
Yeah, we can try that. Let's try it. Okay, cool. Yeah, we don't want a passphrase. We just do this. Nothing. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. And no such file. Okay, you see, so it didn't work because it says no such file or directory. So it couldn't find desktop. So I think we have to explicitly say to the OneDrive and then to the desktop. Maybe it's also because we didn't specify like the actual name, so the ID _ED. So maybe we can try this again, but then with the ID and then ED 25.
I'm sorry, taking a lot of time.
No, it's okay. It's okay because like I think this is useful because this is just the typical issues that you can run into. But once it's sorted, then it's sorted for everyone. So yeah, tilde /OneDrive desktop.
I think also there is another thing before desktop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's possible. If you scroll up a bit in your history, I think you had it somewhere in this yellow text, you know, because you were on the desktop a little while ago.
This is bio the task. Planet. Is it a result, right?
No, so we just want to navigate. You know what? Why don't we just put it in OneDrive? Like that's fine. We don't necessarily have to put this on the desktop. So let's do OneDrive, and then we just save the key to OneDrive. So okay, okay, let's see if this works. I'm not sure if it will. Yeah, okay, so the only thing we just need to fix is we just need to specify the name. So do OneDrive, but then / ID, just keep the default name. Yeah, so backslash and then ID underscore. Yeah,
Copy.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be that exact name. You could call it like my key or something, but let's just keep this name.
Mhm.
Let's just keep this default name. Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. Okay, so let's see now. No such file directory. Oh, okay, let's try it again, but let's specify like C users OneDrive. Let's do the whole path explicitly. So \C \users, yeah, users with a capital U.
You're reading from where?
Oh, I'm reading from, do you see, it's just right at the last line that's on the screen. It says enter file in which to save the key, and then it's C users. Yeah, so I'm basically that whole thing. So that whole thing, but but then also OneDrive at the thing. So see, it's 8, and then \OneDrive. Because we know OneDrive exists, we know
Yeah.
it's there, and now backslash and then the name of the file. So maybe my key or something. Yeah, okay, let's see if that works. Okay, no passphrase.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, okay, success. So let's check now. Okay, so that's now what we're gonna do is say cat. Okay, and then we have to say space tilde \, for the home directory. And then OneDrive, and then my key. Yeah, okay, great. So I'm hoping we all at this point. Okay, so let me jump there. So now this technically is bad that we're showing this on YouTube. So this video is going to end up on YouTube. So please, technically someone could come to this video and now get access to your GitHub. So I know this has been a painful process, but I'm sorry, Aziz, we can do it together offline again.
Yeah, that's
For security, you should delete this key. So you're gonna put this key on your GitHub, but then afterwards you're gonna delete it. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, thank you for being there. Thank you for being the guinea pig. And sorry for
That's
sharing your
right.
information online.
That's
Okay. Okay, so let me do this quickly now myself. So I'm gonna run the same command, but my file is in the default location. So I'm going to use the home directory.ssh. Okay, I know I'm not showing my screen. Let me do that quickly. Okay, .ssh. Oops. And then what was the name? ID. Okay, great. So there's my private key now. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, the whole thing. Copy. And then I'm going to jump over to my GitHub page, which is here. Okay, so we're going to navigate to settings and then to, where is it now? I think it's security. It might be security keys. No. Sorry, let me just look quickly where it is. Second. Should be, oh, sorry, not the settings of the repository. Sorry, my mistake. You want to go to the settings for your entire GitHub account. So you're going to click on your like little profile picture and then go to, I believe it would be settings. Yeah, settings. Okay, so now we've got a lot more options. So now we've seen the settings of our whole account, not just the GitHub repository specifically. And then you'll see there's this little key that says SSH and GPG keys. I'm going to click on that. So you can see I already have existing keys for computers, but I'm not, yeah, you probably will have nothing yet. So we're going to click the new SSH key. We're going to give it a title. So you want to normally give it something that refers to the device that you're using. So I might call this my home PC. Okay, and I'm just gonna write you a test because I want to remind myself to delete it later. But yeah, give it some name that's just that you're gonna know. If you have multiple devices, you'll know which device it was. And then you're going to paste that whole text in there. So this whole piece of text, I think we want to include the begin thing. Let me just see what it says. Begins with, yeah. Actually, now that I'm thinking, wait, let me just check that this is correct, sorry. Oh, sorry. I think I might have copied the wrong. No, yeah, this is the private key. Oh, okay, sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, sorry. So the cat, it should, sorry about that. I put the correct thing in the chat, but I typed the wrong thing in the command. This is my private key. I don't want to upload this to GitHub. I want to copy this, the .pub, because you remember that there were actually two files that were generated. So if I just show you again, let's just clear this. So if I list the files in my SSH folder, okay, you can see that there are these two files. There's the one that's .pub for public, and then there's one that has nothing, and that's my private key. So I don't want to upload it. So I'm going to just rerun this cat, but with .pub. Okay, so this is much better. So this is what I'm going to copy. Okay, so the thing that starts, oh, sorry, I realize I'm not sharing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me switch over, sorry about that. Okay, yes, so what I was pointing out is that we generated the two files, the one that ends in .pub, which is public, and the one that's private. So the one that I printed, this is the private key. We don't want to upload that. We want to upload the public key, which is this one. So if you use the chat, if you use the command from the chat, that's correct. Okay, so I'm going to copy the public key and I'm going to paste it. Yeah, so as I said, like this is information that you don't want to share. So this is your private key. If anyone gets access to this, then it's as if they're you. So this is the thing that you want to keep private. Okay, so let me jump back to my GitHub. Okay, I'm glad that I picked up on that because otherwise it would have been a bit of a pain. Okay, so now I'm going to paste it again, wrong thing. I'm going to paste the correct thing. Okay, so there it is. So it starts with this SSH-ID, and then it's got my email address as well. So I'm going to say add SSH key. Great, so now I've got this new key and it hasn't been used. It says never been used. Okay, so let me give everyone a second also while I organize myself. So yeah, if you get stuck, just jump in.
How did you open the list of files? I write cat tilde back /.ssh /
Okay,
but
it doesn't work. Okay,
yeah.
So for you, you have to use your special thing. So for you, it was OneDrive. Remember, we put the key. So your key is in OneDrive. So you have to copy it. You need to copy it down. And remember, yours is also called my key and not ID. Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to share that? Yeah, so if there's anyone else who didn't use the default, you need to use whatever file name you specified. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so exactly this OneDrive my key. So you're going to do mykey.pub for public. So you can actually just rerun this cat command, but just with a .pub.
I need to copy and paste.
It's probably easier to just use the keys to scroll up to it. So if you use the up arrow, and then, yeah, and then just add a .pub to that, PUB. And then enter. Yeah, nice. Okay, great. So this is your public key. And this is what you, so the whole, you need to copy like that, both of those lines. So just the whole, yeah, the whole thing. Great. Okay. And then paste it in your thing. Yeah, just remember that Control-C, Control-V don't work. You either, but if you highlight it, it actually, it puts it in your clipboard. So if you just highlight the text and then you go to Control-V in your GitHub, it should actually work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Okay, and yeah, this is useful. So in future, yeah, hopefully, you know, this is something that you don't have to do that often. So in some sense, even I forget how to do this. But if once you do it once, you're kind of a bit familiar with it, and you can, when you Google it, when you Google it, you get reminded of the steps. Yeah. Okay. Did you
Just
manage to add it?
yeah. No, I added it, but just to make sure I understand, this is the it's like the password. Now my local file is connected to the remote one, right?
Not yet. So we ready now, like we almost ready. So I think it will not work. So let's so okay, so there, let me share my screen, share my thing again. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that everybody is good. They've added the key. Okay, so let's just clear this. Yeah, and please, if anyone needs help, we are here. Okay, so let's see. If I say git status, okay, I've got this thing that I've ignored. Let's just leave that. If I say git pull, let's see what it says. Ah, okay, it worked. It didn't give me any errors. Let's say, so let me just also just okay, the other thing that we can do to just check, so this is the next step that we should technically follow, is if we in our repository we say ssh-t and then git at github.com and we run that, you should see some message like this. So hi, your username, you've successfully authenticated, but Git does not provide shell access. Do you not see that?
Denied for me. Permission
Denied.
denied.
Okay. Then what we're gonna do for you is I have all the backup commands because I actually have been through this recently. So this is, I'm gonna paste something in the chat, and this is what you're going to use. This is what you're gonna type. Let's make sure that I did this. It's okay. Try this command. Oh, sorry. Okay. Not this command. Sorry. Let me just update this. Let's just change this to global. So if you ran this command in your repository, it would just configure your local repository. But let's just try to configure. Let's configure your whole Git, so automatically for all your repositories. And I think this is correct, right? Is OneDrive my key?
Yeah, it's OneDrive. OneDrive. Yeah, OneDrive my key, yeah.
Okay, so let's try that and then we'll see what happens.
Nothing.
I really wish, okay, nothing happened, that's fine. Okay, so now try and run SSH dash, so try to run the command again that it said permission denied and see.
Still permission denied.
Okay. Okay, can you share your screen again?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
got it.
okay. Let's see.
So this is the
Permission denied. Okay, maybe that tilde at the end might have been wrong. Can you just run can you say git config? Okay, maybe just delete the tilde. Let's see if that helps. Okay, and then yeah. Permission denied. Okay. And you definitely saved your key on your GitHub account?
yeah.
Okay, and okay, let's look at your configs. So let's look at git config double dash global.
Mm.
Yeah, and then edit. So just get rid of the stuff. Yeah, and then just double dash edit. Yeah, sorry, double dash edit. Okay, so now we're gonna basically manually look at your things. Okay, so SSH recent repo. Okay, and is this, so the username, the name here, the name and the email, is
Mhm.
that exactly your GitHub username
Yeah.
and your GitHub email?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the problem is not there. And I didn't, OneDrive is correct, my key is correct.
Yeah. Just to make sure.
Yeah,
This is
just make sure. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and yeah, your username is correct. Yeah, so not sure. Okay, what we can do is we can also run a couple more like sort of advanced commands. Okay, so if you go back to your terminal, and I've lost the Zoom screen now. Okay, so just I'm gonna just paste this in the chat. So just run this command. So eval and then $SSH agent.
mm,
So yeah, you just have to delete that stuff from the front. Okay, great. Yeah, that's fine. Then SSH dash add. Sorry, dash, not forward slash. Yeah, like that, but then just get rid of, yeah, and then the space as well, so no space. Okay, so SSH, so the command SSH add and then space. And then let's just explicitly type out the whole path to your key. So the whole path to your key is /C /user with a capital U. Try it, just tab and see if it completes it, just out of curiosity. Yeah, nice. Okay, and then OneDrive. And then my key. Okay. Okay, then see, now this is interesting because didn't we, when you said cat, when you ran the cat command, it printed it, right? I mean,
yeah.
let's see the cat. So what is the?
I think that I didn't write the ending.
Yeah, the dot. No, but that's fine because there should be two files. There should be one that, the one that is your private key and the one that's your public. So okay, let's do the SSH add, but with tilde. OneDrive. So just get rid of the users. Oh, sorry, we forgot to use 8. That's what happened. Or that's what happened. Okay, so you can, yeah. So, and just, you need to remove the tilde as well.
Users.
So this is why it's actually good. This is an illustration of why it's actually good to use the tab, because if it's not completing, like if you push tab now, it's not going to complete because it can't find that folder. because we're missing the Z's. Z's 8, I think. Yeah, so this should be correct now. So if you say tab and then M and then tab, it should complete it. Yeah. Okay, let's try it. Okay, cool. I think we're good now. So let's try the SSH-T at github.com again. Yeah. Root. Okay, nice. Okay, so this should work. So now, okay, so let's keep on your repository. Let's keep on your thing. So let's navigate to the planets again. So I think we just need to go to the desktop because we're in OneDrive right now. So we do CD. Yeah, perfect.
And
Just gonna,
or
yeah.
when
Yeah, no,
and
what you were typing was good. It was dot backslash and then desktop. Because I think we're not in the desktop yet, are we? We're just in OneDrive. Yeah, there we go. And then to planets. And then I just want to check quickly the remote. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at a command quickly. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now just type get space remote and then -v, and let's just check that sorry, not sorry, just not the word space, just a space, sorry. And then remote and then v, remote with an e, yeah, like that, and then -v, -v. Yeah, perfect. Let's just check this. Okay, yeah, great. So this is already set up. Okay, awesome. So if you try now, try the git pull command. So this is saying get stuff from in the cloud. Let's see. Okay, public key permission denied. Ha. Okay, let's okay, what I'm gonna suggest, if you don't mind, okay, is it okay if we fix this afterwards?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, because I think what maybe would be the best thing to do is actually just kind of start again and just try to delete whatever random keys are on your PC and just figure out what it's happening. Because what I suspect it's doing is you created a key before that we didn't know where it was, and I think your GitHub repository has found that key, but we actually wanted to use a different key. So we just need to fix that, but we'll sort it out. Okay, so hopefully we didn't lose too many people, but
No.
Trust me, the misery that everyone just saw, they're gonna experience at least once. I mean, I can tell horror stories with this. Like, I have 2 GitHub accounts, one that I use for personal work and one that I use for like consultancy work. And I kept having this issue where it was pushing, I was identifying myself as my like personal account on my like work one, and it took me days, really. It took me days to fix it. But once you've gone through it, it's great. It's a great feeling. So
Yeah, I think
we
learning
work it through.
comes from
Exactly.
yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for your time,
exactly.
and apologize
Yeah.
for taking a lot of your time.
No. I'm sure other people learned from this as well. Okay, so let's just take a quick break. I just need to have something to drink, and then let's come back at, let's just do a short break. Let's just come back at 5 minutes. So let's say 12:15, if that's good. So I'll put a message on the chat. So see everyone in 5 minutes. Okay, it is 1:15, so let's jump back in. Okay, I'm sorry, it was a short break, but we are almost done. Okay, let me share. Yes, Annie, please go ahead.
With the previous step, I didn't get the same result as what you did when you typed in the SSH-T git at GitHub.
Yes,
I got
yes.
a can't be established.
Okay, okay. Do you mind sharing your screen and then we can go through it? I think we might be able to just fix that with the eval command. So let's just see what's going on. Okay, so let's see. Authentication host can't be established.
Okay.
Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Okay, so let's just say yes to continue connecting and let's just see what happens. Warning, currently added to your known hosts. Okay, this is actually fine. So this should be okay. So if you run this again, if you just rerun the same command again, let's see if that works. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, look, I don't always advise just saying yes to things. If you don't know, usually it's not advised to say yes. But in this case, we know we're connecting to GitHub. We know we're doing it from our local computer. It's pretty safe to continue. Yeah. So okay, awesome. Great. Okay, that's perfect because then we are all on the same page. So
Thank you.
yeah, pleasure. Of course. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so I'm going to share my thing again. Okay, great. So I'm exactly where Anli was. I've just run this SSH command and I'm getting this hi Amy message. Great. So I'm in my repository. So what I'm about to do is not going to work unless I'm in a GitHub repository. Like let me just demo that. Let me go one file up to my desktop, which is not a Git repository. If I say git status, this is not going to work. It says it's not a repository. Okay, so I'm going to cd back into my planets. And now I'm going to say git pull. Okay. And let's see. Okay, so the first thing it's saying is you need to specify which branch you want to merge to. And it's even giving us a suggestion of how to do this, of what we should do. So we're just going to actually type this exact command. So this last command here, this git branch. So git branch double dash set upstream to, and then I just push tab for that to complete, and then origin, and then branch, which is the name of my branch. So whatever you see here in blue. So for me, it's main, but if you're still on master, then just put master, that's fine. And then main again. What happened? Did I spell something wrong? Origin does not exist. Where, what happened? Okay, I think maybe just put main. Oops. That's great that this doesn't work. See, everyone has issues. Just take care. Oh, okay, sorry. Let's just try origin without anything. Origin doesn't exist. Does it push? Okay, sorry, we should have done this first. Okay, so we want to git push set upstream. Hey Chandri, if it's going well. Okay, set upstream and then origin. Sorry, I jumped the gun. We should have done this first. Origin main. So hopefully this is going to work. Okay, awesome. So you've seen like there's a whole bunch of things that happened here. It's like gone through 17 objects. It's a few kilobytes. And so what's happened now. So I'll just copy this and paste it into the chat. So you got to have the correct command. So it's git push upstream origin main. So we're telling the thing where to send our changes in the remote repository. So let me quickly go to the repository. I will share my screen. Okay, so if I jump to planets, and you should also see this on your side, now whatever is in your planets folder is also in your remote repository. So this is online. So this is visible to everyone. So I can see, okay, I've got a results folder with some empty CSVs. I've got a spaceships folder. So all these commits that I made are now online. And you can even see the commit history actually in the user interface here. So I've got 5 commits. I can look at them. I can see, okay, I started notes on Mars. And this is now visible also to everyone. So I could go onto your GitHub account and I could see, oh, cool, you've got this cool planets repository. And I can go and have a look in it and I can see the history of the code. Yeah. And I mentioned before about the README. So if our folder had a README in it, it would automatically be displayed at the bottom here. So that's quite useful if you want to give people an idea of what this repository is about. You can type a few lines, like a paragraph, just explaining. So I can actually show you maybe it's useful to see, like, for example, this was a project that I was working on. So I have like a README here explaining like exactly what is in here, like an overview of the project. Yeah, so that can be very useful if you want to share your stuff publicly. Okay, so let's go back. So I hope everyone was able to push to their, okay, sorry, Abdulaziz, we still will. We'll fix it. But Anili, did you manage to push?
I can see the planets. I'm not sure how it reaches
Yes.
there.
No, so the reason that you can see that is because you created it already on GitHub. So you've created an empty repository that's just sitting there waiting to be connected to a local one. So that's why it's empty, because you won't, I think you have nothing in there, right?
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah, it's empty, yeah. So you haven't been able to push yet from your local. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I actually sent the sorry, Chandri, I sent the message to you. This was the command. The push set upstream origin main. Okay. And now the other one was the pull. So that's let me switch over now. Okay, so now we would say if I had a collaborator somewhere, if I was collaborating with Dracula and co, when they make changes and push that to the remote repository, I need to pull those changes into my local repository, and that's done with the git pull command. So this should really, yeah, so in this case, it does nothing. It just says already up to date, because I don't have any collaborators, unfortunately. So that's what I was hoping that we might get to, but I think we might not have time. But maybe let me show you what I was hoping we could practice, but we can still do it if people have time offline. Let me switch screens. Jump back to GitHub. Okay, so I have created a repository called Netex Git Workshop Wiki Roulette. So this is publicly available. I will paste the link in the chat. Here it is. So you guys will all be able to see this online. And I have added the people who put their GitHub links. I have added them as collaborators. So the way that you would do that is you would navigate from your repository, you'd go to settings, and you would go to collaborators. And then you can see these are the people that I've added already. So I'm going to add you, whoops. I want to add these 8821. Okay, and then you should get an email from me asking to collaborate. So I think you just have to click accept. I can't remember exactly what the email looks like, but you can see that there's this pending invitation on most people. So if you accept the invitation to collaborate, then you're able to push to this remote repository. So in general, even though repositories are public, in the sense that you can copy someone else's repository, in general, you wouldn't be able to just push changes to them. So that basically means that some random person on the internet can't like corrupt your repository unless you add them as a collaborator. So I wanted to just give people a chance, like if you haven't had this experience before of what it's like to collaborate on a GitHub repository, I wanted to just give you that chance. So I've added people as collaborators. So yeah, you can accept that invite. And then what you can do, which we can practice now, Abdulaziz, I think you should be able to do this even without SSH, I hope, but we'll just have to see. So if you wanted to now, so let's say this was a very nice, useful repository that you think you would want to use. It's got code in it that you think is going to be useful for your own research. You can copy that repository. So let me just maybe find a random repository that's not mine. Let's see. Okay, no, let's not do that. Okay, let's do hierarchical. Okay. Yeah, so you can see this repository doesn't belong to me. This is from a different user, but I can still clone it. I can still copy it to my computer. And I follow almost the exact same procedure as we did with connecting to our own thing. So we go to code, and then you can see it's SSH is selected. We just copy this name of this repository. So it's got the username. So that in this case, it's Matt Lawrence. So we copy this, and then we jump over to our terminal. Jump over to the terminal, which is here. Okay, and then the command, okay, so I'm going to first go to a place where I actually want to put this repository. So let's say I'm just going to put it on my desktop, and the command that you would run would be git clone, and then you would paste the name of that full thing that we copied a second ago. I'm not going to actually run this because I don't want to copy this whole repository, but if you would run this, then you would create a new folder on your desktop containing everything that is in this repository online. So maybe what you can do is you can do this with my repository. So the wiki one that I created. So what you can do is you can run git clone, and then let me copy the correct thing here for you. Yep. So it will be this git clone. Yeah. So if you run this, you should be able to clone this repository. And if you are a collaborator, you can edit those files and then push them to the remote repository that we're all working on. So that actually would be super cool if people, so these files, I use the Wiki Roulette website, so it just takes you to a random Wikipedia page. So I just generated some random text files. So you can practice what it's like to go into a file, to edit it, then to commit those changes, and then to push them to the remote repository. And then you would be able to come to my page and see that you contributed to this fantastic wiki repository. Yeah, so I think this is a nice experience to have, because I remember when I first started collaborating with people, I felt a bit nervous, like, oh, I'm gonna like break something, or I'm going to mess up their code somehow. But it's really good to get this experience, because that's one thing that Git really takes care of. It makes sure that you won't break something. Yeah, so yeah. Abdul, did you want to? Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I did. I copied and pasted the code. It's much easier to be a collaborator other than creating
Yes,
your own file or what they call it.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a great thing now to be aware of this, that you can do this, because it's a way to learn, like also from more advanced coders. So like nobody expects that everyone is like a Git expert. So it's really great if you kind of practice this, if you have someone maybe in your research group or something that you know is a bit more of an advanced Git user, you can like kind of get them to help you and teach you and collaborate with them on something. And because yeah, there is a lot of stuff that we haven't covered. I mean, there's like pull requests, you can set up issues if you want people to do specific, like make specific changes to your repository to contribute to it. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting things. Okay, let me just look quickly at what, okay, yes, I can just show again, just to reiterate. So again, from this interface, we can also get the similar information that we practice getting in the terminal. So for example, if I go to the history of the commits, I can see the commit ID, things like that. So if you find it easier, if you have work that goes back a long time, you can also browse it this way. And there are a lot of tools available that, that can make these things a little bit more visually intuitive. But yeah, GitHub is one of them. So you can also see drop down here of the branches. So this is the main branch. Yeah, okay, I think that's what I wanted to say about that. And let's look quickly. We have 30 minutes left, so we still have quite a bit of time. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I can just quickly say a few words on hosting, which is also like a useful feature of GitHub. So GitHub also allows you to create your own websites. So it handles all of that in the background for you. So you might have noticed that the website for this workshop was actually a github.io website. And that's because it is hosted on GitHub. So I can actually show you here here it is. So this is the repository that contains the website, and if I click on the link, it takes me to the website that you guys have all seen. So that's something very, very cool about GitHub. You don't need to really know anything about creating websites. You can just host very quickly, put a website together. And why this is also useful is I can show you something else that I did that can be very fun. So what I did is my poster for a conference that I went to a little while ago, I actually put it on GitHub. So this is something else you can use with the poster thing. So why is it not? Did I make this private? Let me just check. It should be public. That's why is it not showing? Okay, yeah, it should be here. Yeah, there it is. So this also gives you a nice way to like share your work with people. So I put my poster on GitHub and I put a link to it so people could see it. And then you can do cool things like include animations in your poster. And yeah, it can be, it's kind of a nice tool or a nice skill to be able to show people that you have. And this is sort of really with a ChatGPT plus Stack Overflow. I promise you can all do this with the knowledge that you have now. And there was something else that I just thought of. I'm blanking now. Yes, Jill, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to understand what's the difference between using GitHub to host your poster between and from putting your poster on a OneDrive, and because we both can do the same thing, but how
Yes.
it's different.
But I'm not sure on OneDrive, is that publicly available? So for example, now I can send this link to the chat and everybody can access this. It's publicly, can you do that with OneDrive?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
okay,
you
okay,
can
that's
copy,
cool.
and you can either anyone who has this link can access the file, or you can put a passcode, and anyone who with the
Yes, and that, yeah. Okay, so in that case, I guess the difference between this and that is that this is a website, whereas that is more like a file sharing service.
yeah,
So, yeah. Sorry,
I
you
think
did, yeah.
the power of GitHub, when, like you mentioned it before, if you are writing code and collaborators, and you need to
Yeah.
track the versions where we
Yes.
stopped last day,
Yeah.
because it requires many people and work for a long time, and you
Yeah.
can do it
Yeah,
alone.
no, exactly. These are sort of just like the little cherries on the top, like little extra things that you can
And
do.
just to make sure I understand the use of GitHub, because I downloaded before and created the account, but it's very confusing for someone who's outside the field.
Yeah.
So the main access to GitHub is through Shell, or I can immediately use it like I'm using Twitter or X or whatever. Just
Yeah, so there is
download.
that graphic GUI, the graphical user interface that I think you're referring to. I've never actually used it. I've only ever used it via the shell. So I don't want to comment because like it might be that using the GUI is great. I mean, there might be some people who really enjoy doing it, but I think using the shell has some advantages in that it just keeps things simple. I can imagine the GUI is probably very intimidating, and there's like so many things that you can click and options, and yeah. So really with the shell and those few commands that I've put in the document, so that was these essential commands. So that was the init, the status, the add, the commit, and then the clone and the pull and the push. Essentially with those, what is it, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 commands, you can really do everything that you need realistically that you need to do. If things happen and you get stuck and you have conflicts, then it's usually best to just head over to Stack Overflow or to ask ChatGPT to help you out. But really, you can get super far. So I would advise using the shell if you feel comfortable with it. Yeah. Yeah, is there anyone else who wanted to maybe make some? I think Prudence, if you're still there, I think you probably already have a GitHub account because I noticed you shared like a link to a repository. Do you want to give any insights into like how you've used GitHub if you have, and if it was useful to you? Sorry to put you on the spot, but just if you're there.
Hello?
Hi, yes.
Yes, we only we used it once when we were doing coding with Python. We were
Okay.
just creating it basically for creating a link to our assignment and the code that we used to complete a particular assignment. But that
Okay.
was it basically.
Okay. And what was your experience? Was it like very painful or did it go smooth?
We only created the files, I mean the repository files,
Okay.
and that was about it. It's a lot. This is a lot
Okay.
than what we have
Yes.
done.
Yes, I
Yes.
know. I know it can be very overwhelming, which is why I actually think that I don't want to like push through too much and do bombard you guys with millions of with other commands. So yeah, that's why I was just wondering, you know, if anyone else, does anyone else have a personal, like a thing that they want to share about
Yeah,
their
just
previous use?
small notes. When
Mhm.
when I'm trying to understand, I was trying to understand how to use GitHub. I realized you can download GitHub, the actual website, on your desktop, and
Yes.
the desktop version and the remote version could speak to each other simultaneously.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
maybe if someone struggled really with the shell, there is another choice. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, with these tools, with like with anything, you know, they have to be useful. Otherwise, then you know, there's really no point. But I just remembered the other thing that I wanted to add. Why I would encourage people to just practice using this is that, like, typically in industry, this is what people use. So it's really great if, you know, I mean, I'm assuming everyone here is in academia, in like masters or PhD or maybe honors, at the least. But if you decide at some point you're going to leave and go into industry, I think it's a really great thing to be able to say in an interview on your CV, like, I have used GitHub, you know, because if you're doing any kind of coding in your job, or like data science, machine learning, something like that, I would put money on the fact that this is what that company is going to be using to keep track internally of their work and to document things that have been done. So if you've never ever used this before, and you can just, I mean, here now in this workshop, it's very low stakes. If we make mistakes, it's not a big problem. But if in a job situation, I think this could be a lot more stressful. So just even from that point of view, just practicing using it is very, very useful. Okay, then I think, I know we're a bit early, but I think if there isn't anything else, I think we can maybe stop here.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe one
Prudence.
last question.
Yes,
I
yes, of
wanted to
course.
ask, are there any other links that we can use to further practice particularly on this topic?
This topic. Okay, so I will share at the end of the workshop, like the link to basically all the resources that we've used. So it's going to be what I've shown you plus like 80% more of things you can go through. So more advanced techniques. In terms of just actually practicing using Git, I think you either have to find a friend who you can convince that they also need to learn Git, and then practice collaborating with them. But even just using this by yourself, just because you guys have, you know, you've learned already enough now to use this to manage projects on your own computer. So maybe you might just pick something simple like, hey, I'm working on like my thesis at the moment. I'm going to create a private GitHub repository to keep track of the changes in my thesis or something. So just to get practice like that way. And then if you do get stuck, I mean, if you get really stuck and you just don't know what to do, I mean, you can always reach out to me. I mean, my email address is in the thing. Or try to find a friend in your research group or in your university who you know. There's always a computer scientist somewhere around that you can find to help. Does that help, Prudence?
Yes, it does. But I want to know how beneficial is this to a medical microbiologist?
Okay, that's a difficult question. I would say if your research is something where typically you would make your data public, then this is very useful, because it means that when you publish your paper, you can put a link to the GitHub repository that shows all your analysis in a very transparent way. And I think that is, look, I mean, this is now a bit of more of a philosophical debate, but I think moving towards open science and moving towards reproducibility is something really, really positive that we can do in the scientific community. So if you can document in your publication, like, hey, these are my results, these are the conclusions that we made, but not just that, but you can actually reproduce this analysis yourself from this GitHub repository. I think that can be something really that's really adding something to your publication. So I hope I made a good argument.
Yeah.
Abdul,
Also,
do you want to add something?
I want to add your point, Amy. I think if you used any type of algorithms or models or machine learning,
Yes.
I think it's good practice to put it in a GitHub and add the link if you want to check the because open science and explainable AI. So anything related to machine learning, it should be open. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really nice point. Yeah, because we can make all kinds of claims about what we found, but if it's not reproducible, there's a question of whether it's really good or not. So is that a more convincing argument, Prudence?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Look, it's not for everyone. Like, it's really, if this is something that you've seen and you're like, I'm doing theoretical research, this is not something I think I would use, then that's what you, I guess, learned from this workshop. But if you ever go into industry, then it's something you can put on your CV.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna give everyone, yeah, I think we're sort of ready to close off. I'm gonna give everyone like a minute more if we have any sort of final questions, and then Abdul Aziz, should we hang around? I will stop the recording, but we can hang out and see if we can fix your issue if you have time.
So I was curious. Is this meeting is today? It will be uploaded to YouTube.
I suspect it will not be uploaded today. I think Dr. Kumalo is very busy at the moment, but I'm sure she will upload it as soon as she can.
Okay. So if you have time, at least give me the start so I can.
Yeah, sure. We can
Thank you so
do it together. Yeah. Okay, great. Then let me double check the chat one last time. Which I have lost. Okay, nothing in the chat. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. I think it was a good day, and I'm really grateful to everyone who participated. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you 8 a.m. tomorrow.